So I've been very busy with my campaign and haven't had a lot of time to just weigh in on current events. So now that I'm on a drive here, I figured I'd give my impression on what's going on with Trump declaring an emergency. Look, the bill was garbage that he signed. I thought he was supposed to be some great negotiator. He signs this garbage bill where he ends up getting less money than the Democrats originally proposed for his wall. It's just a loss. It just is. I mean, yeah, the Democrats don't look good either because they lied and said walls are immoral, and now they're giving some money for a racist, murderous, immoral wall. But, yeah, Trump's the real loser here. And so then, oh, okay, he's going to declare an emergency. Now, let me be clear. I do think there's an emergency at the border. It's not an emergency like you think. Like, for me, this type of law is entailed for an emergency like a hurricane just hit, or there was, you know, a massive wildfire, you know, some sort of natural disaster, or some sort of, you know, massive terror attack, or something of that nature, a one-shot emergency that creates massive damage in a very short time frame. For me, the border isn't that. It is a slow, rolling emergency. Now, it is an emergency. Over 20 million people, that's a huge deal. 60,000 a month being apprehended, that's just apprehended. We have no idea how many are getting through. That's an emergency. All of that's true. But it's not one that we should be using these emergency powers for. If you're someone who's concerned about border security and you're cheering for this, how can you not see how this is going to be used against you as soon as 2020 or 2024, whenever the next time a Democrat's in charge in the executive branch? How do you not see it? This is as stupid as when the Democrats were like, oh, we're going to use the nuclear option and end the filibuster, and so now we only need a simple majority. And Mitch McConnell and them are like, okay, you'll pay for that, and that's exactly what happened. That's what's going to happen. So let me tell you exactly what's going to happen as soon as we get a Democrat in. They're going to start saying things like, oh, global warming's an emergency, so we need to allocate billions of dollars that would have otherwise been accredited to, like, the defense or something like that, to now go into funding climate change, research for climate change. And what will the people that defended Trump's decision here say? But that's not an emergency. Yeah, well, that's just in the eye of the beholder. That's why you always operate as under, if we're going to use this power, would we want people we disagree with using this power? If the answer is no, then you say, no, I don't want my guy using it either. That's called consistency. That's what we should seek for all of our representatives and all of us as people. So I am massively against this. And I understand Democrats are upset, and I hope it loses in court, even though I want the money for the wall. Because this is not the right way to do it. I've seen people like Rand Paul come out. He's absolutely right. The process matters. Look, we have a president that I like right now. Not everything about it. I clearly don't like this. You know, there's tons of things I don't like. I don't like the Syria strike. I don't like the deficit spending. I still, even having a president I like, think that the executive branch's power is massively expanded from what the Founding Fathers originally entailed. In fact, both the judiciary and the executive are way more powerful than they should. What does Congress do anymore? Nothing. It's absolutely ridiculous, which is one of the reasons I'm running for Congress, because we need to take back legislative authority for the legislative branch. It's absolutely, I just don't get it. I mean, they don't declare war. They don't have the power of the purse now they're giving out. They don't enact trade policy. You know, all they do is bicker and complain at each other, never get anything done, and, you know, make fools of themselves. Some of them are cool, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, this is just an incredible abuse of power, in my opinion, by Trump. You know, and this is the type of thing when people said, you know, oh, Trump's acting like a dictator. Why? What has he done? This is the first thing that I'm like, okay, this is kind of autocratic. This shouldn't happen. And I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not someone, you know, yeah, of course a bunch of people that dislike Trump are going to say that. And yes, they're hypocrites and disingenuous because Obama did all sorts of things like, you know, refusing to enforce immigration laws that didn't suit well with him. That's not his job. He's not to make the law. He's to enforce the law. But he refused because he didn't agree with them. So that was bad as well. But this is bad. And if you were against Obama abusing his executive authority, then you should be against when your guy does it. And I am. I'm not a fan of massively expanded government. And I'm certainly not a fan of the executive branch overusing its authority. I think it's going to set a terrible precedent, and it's probably not. And here's what's going to happen. It'll be the worst of the worst for me. He'll do it, and then it'll get overruled in the courts, so he won't be able to build the wall anyways. But the precedent will be set so that then the next president will be able to say, oh, and here's my project. What's even the sense of passing budgets anymore then? If the president could just say, everything I want's an emergency, and so I'm just going to take money from where it was elsewhere allocated because I'm allowed. I would support Congress, both the Republicans and the Democrats, coming together to condemn this action. I really would. And I want the money for the wall, and I would still condemn it. Now, I've read that there's possible other avenues he could use, such as declaring, there's potentially a law that says if you declare places a drug corridor, that then you could reallocate spending. Maybe there's more legal grounds to that, and that's tailored more specifically, which maybe you could make an argument. I would like to hear a compelling case made for that. I have to admit to being not well enough informed to have a stance on that, but at least that seems like a starting point that you could say, oh, okay, well, that's a possible starting. Just saying emergency? I mean, what exactly, again, I think there's an emergency with illegal immigration, but what exactly, then what's the threshold for what the emergency needs to be? Can we hash that out? If you're Ocasio-Cortez and you say the world's going to end in 12 years because of climate change, that seems to be an emergency. She believes it's an emergency. So, does that mean if she became president, she could just be like, we're going to take the entire budget and give it to green energy places? It's an emergency. And who's going to stop her? You take it to court, you say this is wrong. Too late, you set the precedent. It's just ridiculous, you know? That's not the intent of what the president's supposed to be doing. Congress is closest to the people for a reason. The House of Representatives is closest to the people for a reason. They're supposed to be the ones that are closest to us and enforce our will through legislation. They're supposed to write the laws. They're supposed to have power of the purse. So giving up that power and allowing the president to do this is a massive, massive mistake, you know? And I just want to, you know, it's the same, right? And I know people say, oh, so now now you're vocal when it's Trump, when it's a Republican. No, I've been vocal against Democrats far more. I'm just consistent, that's all, you know? And for all of you Trump supporters out there that join me when I'm talking about the Mueller investigation, when I'm talking about the FBI corruption, and I say, okay, if you're okay with this investigation based on opposition research, then what are the Democrats going to say then when Trump says, oh, I heard that Kamala Harris that's running against me in 2020, had connections to the Chinese, so I sent the FBI to spy on our camp, and we wiretapped people connected to her, and we released information to all the other agencies, and we leaked information to the press to smear her and everyone connected to her. And I say, what will the Democrats say when that happens? They'll be like, this is abuse, this is dictatorship, and all my people that support Trump are like, yes, exactly. Now it's the exact same thing. What will you Trump fans, or the people that are okay with this, what will you say when it's used, when they say guns, right? Guns are an emergency. We need to redirect funds to getting rid of guns. Climate change is an emergency. We need to redirect funds for that. A tax on trans people are an emergency. We need to redirect funds to make sure that trans people get government paid for surgery, etc., etc., etc. Not enough abortions. We need to redirect funds to make sure that we have easier access to abortions. Are you going to be all right with that, Trump supporter? The people that think this is a good idea? I hope not. We need to look at ourselves first. Demand that what we want is to be transparent, is to be consistent. If we allow ourselves to be hypocritical, then we have no right to look at other people when they're hypocritical. And so because of that, I am firmly against Trump declaring a state of emergency to build this wall, even though I support Trump, even though I'm for the wall. All right, have a good one.